welcome back to yoga. Today we're going to do a brief flow and some stretches to help relieve some of that lower back tightness and pain that we so often get. We get lower back pain due to a variety of reasons, but oftentimes it's from tight hips and just tension in this general area. So we're going to try to move around a little bit and do some stretches to help relieve some of that pain. So we're actually going to begin in child's pose today. So feel free to make your way around onto those knees. Now I totally get it. If this isn't comfortable on the knees or the hips, you can always just have a seat instead as we begin here. But if child's pose is okay for you, go ahead and make your way down, where you sit those hips back towards the heels. Maybe your forehead hovers over the floor, or you can always bring your hands together and rest your forehead on your hands. Or your forehead can just be all the way down on the floor or your mat. One thing to try as well, if you have like a pillow cushion or something, or a blanket, if this is not so comfortable underneath the knees, you can even you can bring it under the knees or even behind, so there's not so much flexion there with those knees. So just some options, but go ahead and just make yourself comfortable here as we begin. Now as you find your space, just try closing those eyes for a few moments if you're comfortable with that. Again, you can always keep them open and just find a gentle gaze down at the floor. And let's give yourself some time to just find your breath. Just beginning to observe how you are breathing today. No need to change the breath at all, we're just noticing the depth of your breath, maybe the pace of your breath, maybe you're breathing a little bit slower or quicker. And if you are in that child's pose, you might be able to feel a little bit of movement through your chest, maybe even through your belly as you breathe here. And we oftentimes focus on the front of our chest, the front of our belly as we breathe, but let's try bringing awareness just for a moment to the sides of the torso, the sides of the rib cage, the space in between the ribs and the hips, and just take a moment to breathe into your side body. So as you inhale, just imagining those ribs expanding as the lungs fill with air, and as you exhale, they slowly come back in. Just about 3 more breaths here. And then maybe try bringing awareness to wherever your forehead is connected, whether it's with your hands or with the mat. Just noticing that spot where it is touching. And if your head's hovering, that's okay too. Just bring your awareness to the center of the forehead. And then very slowly, we're just going to start to move across the forehead, just rolling across side to side. And maybe you start to make that movement a little bit deeper. So as you roll across the forehead, maybe you start to move through the hips as well. Just find some movement rocking side to side. Through the hips, through the legs, across the forehead. And then we'll slowly come back to center. Maybe lifting the forehead, the forearms, the elbows off the mat, but keeping your palms connected to the floor, and just really reach forward through those fingertips as far as you can. Drawing back through those hips, so finding some more length through the arms, through the side body, through the spine. And then on that next breath in, we're going to lift those hips and come forward onto those hands and knees into a kneeling plank, just like the top of a push-up. And then on the breath out, let's bend those elbows and slowly lower all the way down to the chest and the belly. Pausing for a moment, see if you can feel the tops of your feet connected to the floor. And then inhale, let's lift the shoulders and the chest. Just a tiny lift off the mat. Baby cobra is what we call this. Elbows pointing straight back behind you, and our gaze is just right off the tip of the nose, down at the floor. Next breath out, go ahead and exhale and lower back down. On the next inhale, we're going to lift the chest again, but maybe a little bit higher. So maybe you put a little bit of pressure into those fingertips as we lift the chest away from the floor, and then exhaling as you lower. 3 times here with that breath. As you inhale, lifting the heart, lifting the crown of the head straight up towards the ceiling. Exhaling as you lower. 2 more times. Try and keep the tops of your feet, the tops of those legs connected to the floor. Exhale and relax. And just 1 more time, lifting as high as is comfortable on that lower back. And then exhale, slowly lower back down. This time on the inhale, we'll keep those hands under those shoulders, but let's lift back up to that plank. So try to lift chest and hips at the same time. And then exhaling, hips back. Just moving through a gentle flow a few times with our breath here. So first, let's find that breath once again. Noticing the pace of your breath. And we're going to try to match our movement to the pace of our breath here. So on your next inhale, coming forward back to that plank. Exhaling, elbows bend. Try to hug them in along your sides as you lower. Inhaling as we lift through the crown of the head. Exhaling, lower. Inhaling back up to plank. Exhaling, hips reach back. Just 2 times through that flow. Inhaling forward to that plank, nice and strong through that core as we lower down. Inhaling as we lift. Exhale and relax. Inhaling strong as we lift back up. Exhaling, hips back. 1 more time through that modified flow here. 1 movement per breath. Making your way back 1 more time to that child's pose. And as you come back, as we reach those hips back towards those heels, let's keep those arms extended and let's walk both hands over to our left side. Leaning those hips over to the right. Pausing right here. Maybe that right hand can walk a little further away, or maybe it comes on top of the left hand. Breathing into that space that you're creating through the right side body. And then on that next inhale, maybe walk those hands back to center. Let's pause in the middle just for a moment. Noticing both sides of the torso here. And then we'll walk those hands over to the right side. And let's lean those hips over to the left. Maybe that left hand comes on top of the right. Maybe our head rests on our arms or on the floor. Just slowly breathing into the left side of the body. Next breath in, go ahead and walk those hands back to center. Once again, walking those fingertips forward as far as you can. We're slowly going to lift the hips just enough to tuck those toes. And then we're going to reach those hips back once again, back towards those heels. Try to keep those hips reaching back as you slowly lift the knees and lift the hips up to your downward dog. Now feel free to take a few breaths here in your downward dog and just move around a little bit. If you need to adjust the space in between your hands and your feet, maybe you walk out those heels, maybe you move through those shoulders, just whatever feels best, wherever the body wants to take it here. Just slowly coming back to center, just relaxing both heels towards the floor here. Grounding down into the pointer fingers and the thumbs. And that next breath in, let's lift our right leg. Reaching it back and up. And then on the breath out, we'll bend that right knee, draw the right knee forward, and we're going to step that right knee towards the front of our mat. You can walk those toes forward, or walk the hands back until that knee comes right above the ankle. Lowering down to that left knee, untucking those toes. And we're just going to inhale, reach the right arm forward as far as you can, and exhale as you start to reach up towards the ceiling, turning towards the front knee. But continue that right hand going all the way back towards your foot, and then inhaling it back up. Exhaling as you reach back behind you with those right fingertips. Inhaling as you lift. Once more, exhaling as you reach back. And inhaling all the way up and back down. Bringing both hands around to the inside of that front foot. Maybe walk that right foot out to the side a little bit. And just give yourself a moment, a few breaths here, to gently rock side to side through those hips. Or maybe you shift that weight forward and back. Just noticing the front of that left hip flexor here. Just letting it start to open a tiny bit more. Okay, then we'll slowly come back to center. Let's bring that right hand around to the outside of that foot once again as you walk your foot back in. We're going to lift that left knee and just step that left foot to the floor. So the heel comes to the mat, your left foot turns out to the side. And as we inhale, we're slowly going to rise all the way up to a warrior one. Reaching up through those arms, bending that right knee just till it comes above the ankle. We don't want it to go past the ankle here. One more breath in, let's lift a little bit higher. And then on the breath out, we're going to open out to the side, warrior two. Straightening this front leg, and as we inhale, reaching forward as far as you can with those right fingertips. Till you can't reach any further, keep the torso right where it's at. We're just going to lower right hand down towards the floor as the left hand lifts up towards the ceiling. Maybe try turning that gaze up at those left fingertips here. As we pause in this triangle for about 5 breaths. You can keep that left hand lifted, or you can reach back to your lower back, to the hip, wherever it might land, and gently just press that hand into the body as you pull that left shoulder back. Try to reach your left shoulder, that left hip behind you, if that makes sense. So just opening through the front of the torso. Once again, try to find your breath, about 2 more breaths here. Strong through both legs. And then on that next inhale, go ahead and reach back up with that left hand. Engaging that torso as we lift back up to our warrior two. Left arm comes forward, warrior one. And then exhale, lowering both hands to the floor. Go ahead and step back to that downward dog. Maybe you walk out those heels once again. All right, bringing both heels back towards the floor, just relaxing through those heels. Reaching the heart towards those thighs. And next inhale, let's lift our left leg, reaching it back and up. Exhale, and we'll bend that left knee, draw it forward, and stepping that foot towards the front of the mat. Lowering our right knee down towards the floor. Let's inhale, reaching the left arm forward, and then all the way up towards the ceiling. Turning towards the left knee. Continue moving that left hand as you reach back behind you, and then we'll inhale back up to center. Exhaling as you reach all the way back as far as you can, opening that left shoulder. Inhaling as the arm reaches up. Once more, exhale as you reach back. Inhaling all the way back up and then down to the floor on the inside of that front foot. Feel free to walk that left foot out toward the side a little bit to create a little more space for those shoulders and the torso. And then just pausing here, just giving yourself some time. You can gently rock side to side through those hips, maybe forward and back. Maybe you just stay and hold. Just try to keep that focus on the right hip flexor or the lower back, wherever you feel the sensation. And then we'll slowly come back to center. Just bring those hips back to center. Left hand can come around to the outside of that foot. Let's lift the right knee. Just step that right foot in a tiny bit so you can lower the heel and turn that foot out to the side. And inhale. We're slowly going to rise all the way up to that warrior one, facing forward. And then exhaling out to the side, warrior two. Straightening that front leg. As we breathe in, reaching forward through those left fingertips as far as you can. Try to keep those arms about parallel over the floor until you can't reach further. And then go ahead and lower left hand down. Right hand reaches up towards the ceiling. Maybe try turning that gaze. As you do so, as you turn that gaze up, it helps to open those shoulders and those hips. So again, you can keep that right hand lifted, or you can reach back behind you. That palm facing away from the body. And just gently use your hand against the lower back or the hip to pull that right shoulder back as well as this right hip. I'm going to reach that right hip back behind the body. About 3 more breaths here. You can just notice where you might feel a little stretch, where you can engage through those legs, and then also where you can soften, maybe softening the gaze. And 1 more breath here. And we'll slowly reach that arm back up, engaging that core as we lift back up to our warrior two, bending that front knee. Right arm comes forward, warrior one. And then exhaling both hands to the floor. Stepping back to that downward dog. Maybe take a nice deep breath in through the nose and a long breath out through the mouth. Okay, let's go ahead and lower to both knees. We're going to swing these feet around to the front, and then we're actually going to lower down onto our back. So just make sure you have some space behind you. Feel free to bring your hands to the back of those legs and just lower all the way down to your back. And if it feels okay on that lower back, just keeping those knees lifted and try just gently rocking side to side. Just rolling out that lower back here. And then the next time those knees come over to the right side, slowly lowering them all the way down towards the floor. So just rolling onto the right side of the body. We'll extend both arms out in front. And then slowly we're just going to lift this left arm. Maybe reach it up overhead and then out towards the left side. Gently opening through that left shoulder. You can pause anywhere along the way with that left hand. Maybe it's hovering over the floor, maybe it's touching the floor. Either way is fine. And then just relaxing through those hips. Those knees might be hovering, there might be space between the knees, they might be all the way together. There's no perfect spot here. But just as we pause in this twist, which is really great for the entire spine, just to help keep it limber and healthy. Just try to soften through the rest of the body, through those hips, through the knees, through the shoulders, And even the gaze, just try to relax through the jaw. Maybe you turn your gaze to the left side, if that's okay on the neck. And always feel free to close those eyes. We'll be here for about 5 more breaths. Again, as you notice your breath, maybe try breathing into the sides of the body once again. The sides of the rib cage. Feeling them expand and relax. And as you feel ready, maybe on an inhale, we engage that core to help bring those knees back to center, pausing right in the middle just for a moment. And then exhaling, we'll bring both legs over to the left side. Rolling onto the left hip, the left side body, bringing those hands together out in front. And then inhale as we open that right arm all the way out to the right side. Maybe turning your gaze with that hand over to the right side. If you want a great shoulder opener, you can always just rainbow that arm up and around. But otherwise, just find a spot for those arms to rest, for those legs to relax. Maybe you find one thing to softly gaze at, or maybe you close those eyes and turn that gaze inward. Again, noticing that breath, using the breath to come back to when you feel your mind taking you elsewhere. Noticing the movement of the breath. Maybe the feeling of the breath expanding into the lungs, into the ribs. And feeling the body soften as the breath goes out. About 3 more breaths here. As you feel ready, engaging that core, and we'll inhale those knees back up to center, and then exhale, lowering those feet to the mat. Maybe you rest those knees alongside one another, or they can just be pointing straight up towards the ceiling. Feel free to stay here as long as you would like, or as long as you have time for, just resting on that back, maybe closing the eyes, and once again, just noticing what you might feel in the body, the thoughts, and the breath. But then when you feel ready to come back up, first maybe try extending those legs out in front and reaching those arms up overhead. Just take a nice big stretch from fingertip to toe. Maybe that lower back lifts off the floor. And then exhale as those knees come back in towards the chest. Feel free to rock side to side a few times. And you can roll to one side and help yourself up that way, or you can bring your hands to the back of the legs and help yourself up there. Just once again, making your way to a seat on your mat, or wherever space you are in. Just finding a nice tall spine. And maybe on the next breath in, let's reach those arms all the way back up. Take an inhale through the nose and exhaling out through the nose. And then just one more breath together. We'll breathe in through the nose and slowly sigh out through the mouth. Thank thank you for joining me today. I hope your lower back feels a little bit better. And hopefully I will see you next time. Have a great rest of your day. Namaste.